Take a quick pause. Did you know that over 90% of you watching haven't hit the subscribe button yet? If you're enjoying this video, take a second to subscribe and hit the like button. It helps us bring you more gripping stories every day. Also, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments so we can see how far our stories are reaching. Your support really keeps us going. Now, let's jump back into the video. I'd always considered myself a fairly healthy person. I watched what I ate, tried to walk when I could, and I never smoked. So when I started feeling a little off, I assumed it was just stress. Work had been busy, and Ethan, my fiance, had been preoccupied too, bouncing between meetings and deadlines like a man juggling with fire. We were both tired, and maybe that's all it was. At first, it was just fatigue, a dull kind of tired that lingered no matter how much I slept. Then came the headaches, sharp and sudden, the kind that made light feel like daggers in my eyes. I remember sitting in our kitchen one morning, clutching my coffee mug like it was the only thing anchoring me to the moment, while Ethan scrolled through his phone across from me, oblivious. He looked up, caught me wincing, and asked, "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied, managing a smile. "Just didn't sleep well." He nodded and went back to his phone. I wanted him to push a little, to reach across the table and really ask me what was wrong. But he didn't. Maybe he was just tired too. Ethan and I had been together for 4 years. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party, both of us hiding out in the kitchen to escape the loud music. We ended up talking all night, sharing stories about travel, embarrassing childhood memories, and life goals over lukewarm wine and leftover appetizers. From that moment, something clicked. He made me laugh like no one else, and he listened like my words mattered. It wasn't just chemistry, or it was connection. He'd been my rock through the lowest point in my life, when my dad passed away suddenly 2 years into our relationship. Ethan stayed up with me on sleepless nights, held me while I cried, brought me food when I didn't feel like eating. I remember thinking, if this man isn't my forever, then I don't know what is. Which is why I didn't want to overreact now. We all go through phases. Maybe we were just in a lull. But the headaches got worse. I started getting dizzy spells, and once I even blacked out at the grocery store. The EMTs said it might have been low blood sugar, but something didn't feel right. I made an appointment with my doctor, more to silence my own anxiety than anything else. Ethan insisted he'd come with me, but I told him not to. I figured it was nothing serious. The appointment felt routine at first. Blood pressure, pulse, a few general questions. Then came the lab work. The doctor, a woman named Dr. Lerner, called me back 2 days later and asked if I could come in to discuss the results. "It's nothing to panic about," she said, "but I'd like to go over a few things in person." Those words stayed with me the whole ride over. Not to panic, but not a clean bill of health either. I told myself it was probably a vitamin deficiency. Or anemia, something simple. Fixable. Dr. Lerner sat across from me in her small office, hands folded. She was calm, professional, but there was a strange tightness to her voice. We ran a full panel, including an STI screening. It's standard just to rule things out. I nodded, still calm. I hadn't had any concerns in that area. Well, she continued gently, "Your test came back positive for trichomoniasis." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "It's a sexually transmitted infection," she said. "It's usually asymptomatic in men, but women can experience fatigue, abdominal discomfort, and sometimes recurrent headaches and dizziness, which would explain your symptoms." There was a long, horrible pause. I I haven't been with anyone else," I said, the words barely audible. She gave me a sympathetic look. "I understand. These conversations can be difficult, but I do recommend your partner get tested as well." I nodded slowly, the room spinning, not from the infection, but from the realization that came crashing down over me like a wave. Ethan. We'd been together exclusively for 4 years, engaged for 1. There was no one else. At least, there wasn't supposed to be. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Every second of our relationship started replaying in my mind. The missed calls, the late nights at work, the vague answers, all the moments I'd dismissed as normal, all the trust I'd given freely. I didn't want to believe it, but how else could I explain it? When I got home, Ethan was already there, sprawled on the couch watching TV like nothing had changed. I stood in the doorway, keys still in hand. "Hey, you're back early," he said, smiling. "Everything okay?" I dropped my bag on the floor, trying to stay calm. "We need to talk." His smile faded. "What's going on?" I didn't sit. I went to the doctor, got some blood work done. He sat up straighter. "Yeah, everything all right?" I swallowed hard. They found something, an infection. His face changed instantly. Not fear, not guilt, just confusion. "What kind of infection?" "Trichomoniasis," I said quietly. There was a pause. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," I said, my voice shaking. "It's an STI." He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Are you saying you think I gave it to you?" "I haven't been with anyone else, Ethan." "Neither have I," he snapped, standing up now. "You think I've been cheating on you?" "I'm just telling you what the doctor said. They ran full labs. That's the only explanation." He shook his head, jaw tightening. "Number? No, there's got to be another reason. Maybe a false positive. Or maybe you got it from something else." My heart dropped. "You think I cheated on you?" "I'm not saying that," he said quickly, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. "This doesn't just appear out of nowhere, Ethan." He looked frustrated now, almost angry. "Do you hear yourself right now? You go to one doctor's appointment, and now you think I'm some kind of lying, cheating. Then how else do you explain it?" I cut him off. "I don't know, but I haven't done anything. I love you. I want to marry you. Why would I throw that away?" I wanted to believe him. I wanted to fall into his arms and have him promise me this was all a mistake. But there was something in his voice, in the way his eyes darted for just a second too long, that made my stomach turn. Still, I was torn. This was the man who held me when I cried. The man who kissed my forehead every night. The man I trusted. "Go get tested," I said finally. "If you're telling the truth, then prove it." He looked at me, wounded. "I can't believe you're even asking me that." "Then don't make it hard," I said. "Just do it." He didn't answer, just stared at me with this look of disbelief and hurt, like I was the one who'd betrayed him. I went to bed that night without saying another word, lying awake in the dark, replaying everything. Every birthday, every late night, every smile that now felt like it might have been a lie. And yet, a part of me still hoped he was telling the truth, that this was just a horrible mix-up. But that other part, the one I was trying hard to silence, whispered that maybe I'd already seen the truth and I just didn't want to face it. The next morning, he kissed my forehead like nothing had happened and said he'd schedule a test later that week. I watched him walk out the door and wondered if I'd just let a lie leave the room with him, or if I'd accused an innocent man because of something I didn't understand. I wish I could say I knew, but I didn't. Not yet. And that uncertainty? That's what hurts the most. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my sister, not my best friend, not even my coworker Hannah, who could sense a mood shift in me from across a room. I didn't want to invite opinions. I wasn't ready for the looks of pity, or worse, the questions. I didn't want to be talked into forgiveness or revenge. I needed space. I needed facts. And most of all, I needed to believe that I wasn't going crazy. For the next few days, I watched Ethan like I'd never watched him before. Not in the obvious, suspicious kind of way, but with quiet, careful attention. The way he answered questions. The way his tone shifted when I asked about his day. The subtle delays between his words, the flickers of hesitation when I mentioned the doctor again. Every small thing felt magnified. He was acting normal. Too normal, actually. He still made my tea in the mornings, kissed me before work, sent the usual midday texts. "How's your day going? Want anything from the store?" But now those small gestures felt calculated, like they were part of a script he'd written to keep me from digging deeper. 3 days after I told him, I asked if he'd gone in for the test yet. "I'm planning to call tomorrow," he said, not meeting my eyes as he folded laundry on the bed. "Tomorrow," I repeated, trying not to sound like I was accusing him. Yeah, I've just been slammed at work, he said. I'll get it done, okay? I nodded slowly, but something inside me tightened. It wasn't just the delay, and it was how casually he brushed it off. If the roles were reversed, I would have gone the same day. Heck, I'd have walked into the clinic without an appointment if I had to, just to clear my name. Why wasn't he doing the same? That night, I stared at the ceiling while he slept beside me, breathing evenly. My mind raced with possibilities. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe it was a false positive, just like he said. Maybe it was a fluke, a lab mistake. Or maybe he had something to hide. I didn't want to snoop. I really didn't. But my gut wouldn't let it go. So the next day, while he was in the shower, I picked up his phone from the nightstand. I didn't know what I was looking for, messages, calls, anything unusual, but there was nothing. He'd always kept his phone clean, too clean. And then I checked his health app. There it was, a recent entry for a local urgent care clinic, dated 2 days ago. He'd already gone. He'd lied to me about not going. Yet. I froze. Why would he lie about that? Later that evening, I waited until we were both sitting on the couch, pretending to watch a movie neither of us was really paying attention to. Did you call the clinic? I asked casually. He looked over. Not yet. My heart sank. I tried to keep my face neutral. I thought you said you would. I told you I've been swamped, he replied, eyes fixed on the TV. I swallowed. You sure you haven't been already? He turned to me slowly. Why would I lie about that? Good question. I didn't answer. I just stared at him, trying to decide if I was seeing the truth or the performance of someone who'd practiced this kind of lie before. Do you not trust me? He asked quietly. I didn't answer that either. He sighed and stood up. This is getting ridiculous. You think I'm cheating because of one lab result and now you're watching me like I'm some criminal. I'm just trying to make sense of what's happening to my body, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I'm scared, Ethan, and confused. And I'm trying really hard not to jump to conclusions. But every time I ask you something, you get defensive. Because I'm hurt, he said, his voice rising. You think I'd lie to you like that? After everything we've been through? He looked genuinely upset, eyes glistening, jaw tight, hands shaking slightly. And for a moment, I questioned everything all over again. Was I losing it? Had I misread all the signs? I'm sorry, I whispered, unsure if I meant it. He sat back down, closer this time, and took my hand. I love you, he said, eyes searching mine. You're the only person I've ever wanted to build a life with. If something's wrong, we'll face it together. But you've got to trust me, please. I wanted to cry. I wanted to believe him so badly. This was Ethan, my Ethan, the one who remembered my coffee order, who rubbed my back when I had cramps, who danced with me barefoot in the kitchen to songs from our playlist. The one who stayed up all night to help me rehearse for a work presentation, even though he had an early meeting the next day. How could that man betray me? The next day, I called the clinic myself, using the name I saw in his health app. I didn't pretend to be him, that would have crossed a line. I just asked if they could tell me what kind of tests were typically done there, whether STI screenings were common. The receptionist was polite. Yes, we do those quite often. Walk-ins welcome, and results usually come back in 2 to 3 days. So he would have had the results by now, but he hadn't said a word. That night, I waited until we were sitting across from each other at dinner. The silence between us was heavier than usual. Did you get your test results back? I asked. He blinked. I haven't gone yet. I told you that. And there it was. The lie. Plain and direct. I didn't react. Not yet. What would you do? I asked quietly. If I told you I knew you'd already been tested? His fork froze halfway to his mouth. What? He said slowly. I saw it. On your phone. You went 2 days ago. His face changed. Not fear, not guilt. Just a pause, a beat too long, then a forced laugh. You checked my phone? That's what you're focusing on? I asked. No, I can't believe you're snooping through my stuff now. You lied to me. I didn't lie, he said quickly. I just didn't want to tell you until I got the results. I didn't want to stress you out more. That spin, it was fast, smooth, almost believable. Almost. And did you get them? I asked. He nodded reluctantly. Yeah, everything was negative. Really? Yes. No trichomoniasis? Nothing. We stared at each other for a long time. I want to see the report, I said. He looked genuinely shocked. You don't believe me? I want to see it, I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. He stood up suddenly, pushed his chair back. I'm not going to stand here and prove my innocence like I'm on trial. If you don't trust me, maybe we have a bigger problem than some test results. He stormed out of the room, leaving me alone with my untouched plate. That night, I sat in bed long after he fell asleep. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just listened to the quiet hum of the ceiling fan and the steady beat of my own heart. Both distant, both irrelevant. Had he lied about the results? Or was I tearing apart a perfectly good relationship over paranoia? I didn't know anymore. That's what scared me the most. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened. Made breakfast, kissed my cheek, asked about my meeting. And I played along, pretended to smile, pretended I wasn't drowning in doubt. But something inside me had shifted. A fracture had formed, and I didn't know if it could be sealed again. Because now I wasn't just questioning him. I was starting to question myself. The days that followed blurred together, wrapped in a kind of emotional fog I couldn't escape from. I moved through my routine, work, chores, conversations, like I was watching someone else live my life. Ethan remained the same, thoughtful, affectionate, always present. In fact, he seemed more attentive lately. He brought home flowers for no reason, offered to run errands, asked me if I wanted to take a weekend trip, just the two of us. Anyone watching from the outside would have thought we were in one of those golden honeymoon phases of a relationship. But I wasn't feeling golden. I was feeling hollow. I kept going back to that moment at dinner. The way he deflected, the way he spun the story into a case of protecting me from worry. Maybe it was true. Maybe he had meant well. But the fact that he'd lied at all, and continued to lie even when confronted, clung to me like a shadow. And if he could lie about something like this, what else could he lie about? I didn't want to become someone who obsessed over their partner's every move, someone who searched phones or followed clues like a detective. That wasn't who I was. And yet, here I was. Googling symptoms, checking dates, replaying conversations in my head like a film on loop, pausing at certain scenes and wondering what I'd missed. On a Thursday evening, as I sat on the couch mindlessly scrolling through emails, something caught my eye. A notification popped up on Ethan's iPad, which he'd left charging on the coffee table. He rarely used it, mostly just for reading the news or checking sports scores, but this time, a message lit up the screen. It was from someone named Jess. I wasn't trying to pry, truly, but the message preview was there, plain as day. Hey, I had a really great time last weekend. Still thinking about that laugh you did at the cafe when the waitress spilled water. You always make things feel light. My breath caught. My pulse quickened. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to fade, for the message to disappear, or for some clarification to rise from my logic. But there was none. I picked up the iPad, hesitating just before unlocking it. He hadn't logged out. The Messages app was still open in the background, and there they were. A thread of messages between Ethan and Jess. The exchange wasn't overly flirtatious, no hearts, no pet names, but it was intimate in a way that felt personal, private, like a space I wasn't meant to enter. They talked about places they'd gone, inside jokes I didn't understand, and small, affectionate comments that sat uncomfortably in my stomach. One message from her 2 weeks ago. I know you're trying to be careful, but I hate feeling like a secret. And his reply, I know. I'm sorry. It's not forever. Not forever. I closed the iPad gently and set it back on the table. My hands trembled, but I wasn't angry. Not yet. It was worse than that. I felt disconnected. like something inside me had just shut off. Later that night, when he came home from work, I acted normal, asked about his day, told him I'd picked up groceries. He smiled like everything was fine, sat down next to me like he always did, and I let him, because I didn't want a confrontation in the heat of emotion. I wanted the truth, the real truth. And I was starting to realize that asking for it directly wasn't going to work. So I waited. The next morning, I called out sick from work and drove to the address listed in one of Jess's messages, the cafe they'd visited, where she described his laugh. It was in a quiet part of town about 40 minutes away, not exactly close to his office, which made the visit even more curious. I ordered a tea, sat near the window, and just watched for a while. Nothing happened, no dramatic reveal, no Ethan walking in, no Jess waiting at a table. But I didn't need to see it in person. I already knew. When I got home, he was in the kitchen cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air. "Hey, babe," he said brightly. "You feeling okay?" I nodded. "Better now." He turned and smiled at me, eyes warm. "Good. I hate when you're not feeling like yourself." I leaned against the counter and watched him chop vegetables. So casual, so natural, like he wasn't carrying two lives on his shoulders. "Who's Jess?" I asked softly. The knife paused for a fraction of a second. Then he resumed. "Jess? Yeah, the one who thinks your laugh is adorable." He turned then, slowly. His face was unreadable. "You went through my messages?" he asked. I didn't flinch. "She messaged you on the iPad. It popped up." A long silence. "She's just a friend," he said finally. "Just a friend who says she hates feeling like a secret?" He looked away. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "She's someone I met at a networking event," he said, still avoiding my eyes. "We got along. She's going through a rough patch, and we've been talking. I didn't tell you because I knew how it would look." "And how does it look?" He didn't answer. I stepped closer. "Did you sleep with her?" "No." "Did you kiss her?" "No." "Then what are you sorry for in that message? Why does she feel hidden?" He rubbed his temples. "I don't know. Maybe I got too close emotionally, but nothing physical ever happened. I swear I wanted to believe him. I wanted to cling to the thread of denial, the possibility that maybe he was telling the truth. But my body remembered the diagnosis, the symptoms, the way he lied about the test results, the way he spun stories like silk to make me question myself. "You said you tested negative," I said. "I did." "Show me." He paused. "I deleted it. I didn't think I'd need it once I knew everything was okay." "Convenient." "Do you even want to believe me at this point?" he asked, voice rising slightly. "I want to understand what happened," I said, more to myself than to him. He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes softening. "I didn't cheat," he said gently. "Not in the way you think. But maybe I crossed some lines. Maybe I didn't protect our relationship the way I should have. But I never stopped loving you. Never." Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Because I couldn't tell anymore what was real and what was crafted for my comfort. "You've lied, Ethan, more than once." I was scared. "So was I whispered. When I sat in that exam room, hearing something I couldn't explain, the only person I thought of was you. And the worst part wasn't the diagnosis. It was realizing I didn't know if I could trust the person I loved most." He stepped forward, took my hands. "I want to fix this," he said. "Please, don't let this break us. Let's go to counseling, talk to someone. I'll cut off contact with her. I'll do whatever it takes." His voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the fear in him. Not the fear of being caught, the fear of losing me. I stood there, frozen. Part of me wanted to collapse into his arms and believe every word. Another part screamed that I'd be a fool to fall for the same act again. I didn't pull away, but I didn't speak either. I was suspended in that moment, between past and present, between love and doubt. Because when the truth gets this tangled, you start to wonder, is your heart lying too? And that's where I am now. Standing in the middle of our kitchen, holding hands with the man I've shared so much with, unsure if I should walk away or hold on just a little longer. Still not knowing which part of the story is real and which part is just the performance I've been convinced to believe.